Good morning, all. Welcome back to Silver and Sew. We are going to, I'm so excited for this. We're going to get started on our table runner now. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do this section here first. So what we're going to use is 9 of our pieces for, I believe it was 1 3/4 by 5 3/4. So all we need to do to start these is, look, I'm just going to duplicate this one. So I order that you want to sew them together. And all we're going to do is flip that first one, lay it over top of the second one. And then we're just going to run a 1/4 inch seam along there. And I'm not going to iron in between. We can just finger press it, open it up, and then we'll go ahead and flip the next one over on that 1/4 inch seam. If you want, you can stick a pin or something, a pin or a clip or something in your very first one so you know which end you're working from, so you don't accidentally sew something onto that one. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to get these together. I'm also going to do this row here for the other side, and then I'll meet you back here. I have these ones done here, and as you can see, they're a little bit, and I don't know why that is, but I'm not going to be able to get a 1/4 inch seam out of each one, but that's okay. It'll just be a little bit narrower, and we might have to trim some spots down. If you're doing it and you don't like that idea, you can always add just another strip on one end or the other of these. As long as you do the same thing to both ends, you'll be fine. Just remember that they were 1 3/4 inch wide. So if you sewed them, if you did leave the strips at 11.5 and you sewed them, now would be when you want to take your ruler and your rotary cutter and cut that in half. And I did iron them flat, and I just ironed them all one way. You have nothing to line up seams with this on, so it doesn't matter which way you iron. If you want to, we'll just set these aside. And now we're going to move on to section 2, which is these strips here. That up a little bit. So from there to there, so these strips are going this way, and we need a total of 8. And I believe these are the ones where I need to cut one yet. I was so exhausted last night, and I finally got asleep, and it felt so good. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We did have to replace that one there, so I have some butterfly that I use for that. 4. And I replaced that one with this. I had no more longer pieces of that, only short. 5, 6, 7. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut 2 strips of that. And I'll start at this end here. So all we're going to do, just like we did the other ones, put one on top of the other and sew a 1/4 inch seam. These are a bit longer, so instead of finger pressing them, I'll probably just bring it over to the iron board. But what's good about these strips like this, if you want to chain stitch, you certainly can. So you just put those 2 together and feed them through, and then put the next 2 together and feed them through right after it. That way you're not wasting out thread in between. It makes it go a little bit quicker. But these ones were 1 3/4 by 11.5, I believe. Yep, 11.5. So 1 3/4 by 11.5, and you need 8 of them on this. And I will go ahead and get that cut out of the tan. I have to iron that flat and everything first. So if you want to go ahead and start sewing yours, I will get mine cut out here, and then I will get both sides of mine together, or both ends together, iron them flat, and then I'll meet you back here. So we have these 2 sections done. So that was section number 2. There's section number 1. So we're on to section number 3 here. So we have our 6 inches by 11.5 inch pieces cut out. We'll lay one aside. And then we have the 6 by 6 inch squares, and we'll lay 2 of those aside. So we're going to move that one out of the way for now. The next step is we need to draw the triangles on here. So this is the front. As you can see, this is not a real batik. It's by Wilmington print. So this will be our triangular piece that's on these. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip them to the back side. And I'm just using a square here, so I don't got to use my long roller. And you're just going to draw a line from corner to corner, just like we do in the half square triangles. So we're going to do that to both of them. Now, see, I got a little bit of the selvage on there, but we'll make sure that's the side that we cut off when we put it on. And we will do the same exact thing with the other side. So what we're going to do is we want our triangles to be on this corner of our brown or our tan. So we're going to go ahead and line that up there and pin that into place. And I just put one through each side so it doesn't shift around when you're sewing. Now I saved the end that I cut off. So I'm going to take from this line here and do a 1/4 inch and sew a line that way, turn it around and do a 1/4 inch from this side of the line. That way when we cut this off, I can keep this and it's already made up a half square triangle. So this side here, we'll do the same thing, but as you can see, they're going to overlap, such as this one does here. You don't see the point on there. So we're going to go ahead and do this side first, then we'll come back after we get that cut off and ironed flat. I'll bring you back to show you how to cut it off. Okay, so we do have that attached. I don't know if you can see that there, but we have the line down the center and then a seam a 1/4 inch away from both sides of the line. And we'll just line up our square or our ruler with that line once again. And that is where we're going to cut at. So just take your rotary cutter and cut down that center line. And now we have this one that's already made up. We can use that for a different project. I do have lots of both fabrics left. And then we're going to open that one up. Finger press that towards the purple. And then we're going to go ahead and iron that flat. Once we have that pressed open like that, we'll go ahead and take the other one. And we want it to go in the opposite direction. Well, we're going to put it that way so we cut that part off. No, that way. Put it there so we cut that part off. And we'll pin that into place. And as you can see, it goes down further, and that's totally all right. And we'll pin that in place wherever I put the pin at. And we'll take that to the sewing machine, and once again, 1/4 inch seam down that way, 1/4 inch seam down that way. We'll come back and cut that off and iron that open. Okay, we'll go ahead and cut this other side off. Once again, just line it up with your line. Cut that off. We'll leave that one aside again. And we'll go to the ironing board, come back and we'll trim up the dog ears off there and square up our block. This one we'll need the bigger ruler here, so we'll just go ahead and put that on there. Let's see, it's coming to about the 1/2 inch mark there. We're not squaring it up to a certain size right now. We're just kind of taking off that extra. That way, when we go to sew it into the seam, we can line up our edges and they'll be fine. Take those dog ears off. Then all we have left to do on that piece is put our applique on. So what we're going to do there is we're going to take and put it wherever we want it. Now, mind you, there's going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance up there, so you want to center it off of that. That's actually upside down there. Oh, maybe it wasn't. Okay, and our purple flowers. And I just trim up how they're connected with the little pieces. I just trim those up to make sure they look nice. Okay, so we'll slide that butterfly up a little bit so those can fit in there. Okay, if you want to be exactly precise with it, you can take this and use your ruler, you know, and measure that out. Make sure you're exactly half the distance, so forth, and line it up wherever you want. So we know it's right there. If you wanted to, you could just put a little dot there or something to know that he has to line up with that. And the flowers are the same. You can just go off the center of him and make sure, you know, like maybe they fit in between that inch mark and that inch mark, and then they'll be centered. So that's all you need to do to line them up. And then you're going to go ahead and take your stitch wizard or wizard, I don't know what this stuff is called. It's a fusing of some kind, and it comes on a roll, and you can buy it right at Walmart or any quilting store. It's just, you can buy it online even. It's really cheap. I think it was like $1 or $2 at Walmart for a roll of it. So I just take them and cut a little piece like that. just enough to hold it down, lift it up, and then put it over. You just want to make sure there ain't nothing sticking out that's going to get on your iron or your ironing board. But it does truly help them hold into place when you go to put them on by stitching. And the butterfly, I just cut a little bit bigger pieces. Okay, so that's all ready to be ironed on there. Once it irons on and it cools, then they'll stick a little bit better. And then I will go ahead and get this other one done up to this point. And then I'll meet you back here. Okay, so we have the embellishments ironed on with the fusing. And as you can see, they're not totally sewed or ironed down, but it just keeps it in place until we can stitch it in. I'll get started on the center part, the last section to put together. So we're going to take our praying hands. It looks like it goes this way. I don't think it really matters, but we're going to put it this way. And we're going to start off with the sections that are 2 by 6. The middle section is 6 by 20.5. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to flip those over on to the white part. Let's see, is that showing up in the... We're just going to flip that over and sew that on with a 1/4 inch seam, and then do the same with the other end. Sew that on with a 1/4 inch seam. We'll then take it to the ironing board, iron it open, and then we'll come back and we'll attach the strips onto the side of it. This middle section done, the very middle of the middle section, I should say. So now we're going to put our brown on the outside and our purple on the inside. And I do my longer strips like this in a chain stitch. So we're just going to flip that over, do a 1/4 inch seam here, and the same here. Flip it over, do a 1/4 inch seam there. So we'll get those done up and iron them flat, and then I'll meet you back here. Strips sewn together and ironed flat. So at that point, all you're going to do is flip them over onto that center piece and sew those as well with a 1/4 inch seam on both sides. So we'll get that done, iron it flat, and then we'll come back here and work on the embroidery. It's all done, and it's ironed flat, so that is what that will be. So next we're going to work on our, you know what, I think we're going to go ahead and attach the pieces, and then we'll work on our embroidery. So all we're going to do next is we're going to go down each side in unison. So we'll sew this end on with a 1/4 inch seam, this end on with a 1/4 inch seam. We'll iron that flat. We'll come back, and then we'll sew these two pieces on to this one with a 1/4 inch seam. So we'll just work our way down to the end. Now this one is going to go this way at the end with a 1/4 inch seam. And then when we come back, I'll show you how we cut the angle on that. And then we'll start working on our embroidery. Since I never thought about it before I told you we'll sew that on and I'll come back, I wanted to show you. So when we go and put these on, each piece might be, I haven't ironed this flat yet, each piece might be a little bit different in size. So I just kind of centered that. Now this piece here was really a lot longer. Maybe this one will be too. Yeah, so you're looking at a good chunk there. So you need to trim that down. Like this little bit here, we can trim that down when we're done with that. But I just lined it up on a line on the cutting mat, making sure that it's fairly even going across this way, and line it up. And I trimmed down the one side as such. And I did not measure it. Instead, I just put this up to it and see which line it landed on. So this one has landed exactly on that 6.5 mark. So then I just go over on this side, go to the 6.5 mark, and trim that up on this side as well. This doesn't have to be exact, but you do want to be able to line it up when you're sewing to make sure you get it straight when you're putting it together. And you might have to do this all the way down as you're adding pieces on. So that's much better. So now we just line it up. And at this point, I also pinned. If you're not sewing on a very flat surface off to the left of the machine, and you got the fabric over there, it's got so much weight, it's kind of dragging it, and pulling away from being lined up. So though I don't like to pin, I'm going to go ahead and pin mine into place. And then we'll finish getting this sewn up with each of the pieces. Get it ironed up, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so we have it all sewn together and ironed flat. So now we have to fix, you can see how it's narrower there. We got to trim all that down. And then we got to angle that bottom. So all I did to angle the bottom, which we'll do that first, to angle it down, is find the center of this here. And I'm just going to mark it ever so lightly within the seam. So then all we're going to do is take our ruler and go from that edge of there right to that point. You're going to cut that off. And then you're going to go from the other way and do the same thing. And we can save those and use those in a half square triangle as well. So now we need to make sure these are straight here. Edge. And trim all this up. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing with the other end. And the front is all put together other than the applique. So we're going to start with the flowers. And all you're going to do is you're going to put your embroidery floss on. I'm using 2 strands. So embroidery floss, when you go to take it off of the skein, it's going to have 6 strands. So you're going to pull 2 off. Divide it up. There'll be 6 strands together, and you'll divide it so there's 2, 2, 2. And then just tie a knot in the end, and you're going to poke it up through the center of the flower. And then take your needle, wrap your floss around it. 5 times is what I do. Put it back through right close to it, but not exactly in the same spot. And then once you get your needle through, then you want to make sure that's fine. And then hold on to that knot loosely while you pull your thread through. And then it gets a dot in the middle of the flower. Then just come back here, do a small stitch underneath that flower through the fabric. And it's just like tying a knot like when you're sewing by hand. So the flowers are very simple. That's all I did on those. So I showed you that one. So then now we'll move on to the butterfly. The butterfly took a little more time. I did the blue around the wings, and then in the top one here, and then in the body, I did the purple. So all I'm going to do is find a spot down here to start. But I just took 1 stitch for that inside of the outer shell part of it. And then on the next one, I did 2 stitches in it. Well, so all you're doing from the back is just finding the hole, and I kind of just guide it with my finger, you know, hold it like that, and kind of guide where you want your needle to go according to where it's popping out at the top when you're doing it. Can you see that okay? Yeah, I guess you can. It's in the camera view. So you just can go right up to the edge again, pull it back through, and do a 2nd stitch. Now, if you're going to sew it, you could just go around with white thread all the way around the butterfly, and that'd be fine too. That will hold it as well. And the next one, we'll do 3 stitches, and I'll just keep going until I get to this big one, which will be in purple. So I'll skip behind that, and then I'll do 4, 3, 2, 1. And then these bottom ones, I just did a stitch in each one. Much easier when you just have this little piece, you know, just this section of fabric. But for the sake of time, I went ahead and connected them all. So we'll go ahead and do a couple here. So up on one side and down on the other. And that just gives it a little pop of color in between it. I know the appliques, when you buy them, they're cheaper when you get the all white ones. If they get into color and glitter and sequins and all that, they get really expensive. So I just buy the plain ones and embellish them myself. It makes it a little more feasible. So that's all there is to it, guys. I'm going to leave you with that so I can go ahead and get the video edited and posted. And I will see you back here tonight about 8 o'clock. I'll go live. Hopefully I'll have this done by then and we can work on the back and do some question and answers on not only this but anything you might have questions on. As I said, we do have the Facebook group if you want to join that. That's So Granny So, and it's another great place that you can maybe share your project, or if you have any questions, or maybe be able to give me tips. I'd appreciate that one. But thanks for viewing all. If you found this video helpful, give it a big thumbs up. Helps our channel grow. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love to have you here at So Granny So. Thanks all. Have a good day. Bye.